Hello, everyone. It's Saturday afternoon. I think this is going to be a pattern for me. It represents a time in the weekend where everything is just wide open, and I haven't let all of the to-dos pile on top of me yet. So here I have my coffee. This is probably my second or third cup. It's a mocha pot Americano. It's the ritual I like to do on the weekends, which I may have mentioned already. I have just done a bunch of paper catch up. So there's all kinds of mess around me right now. I caught up in my lifelog. I caught up in my one line a day. Basically, my schedule can sometimes be pretty insane, and I will log things on my phone during the week if I don't have time to spend time with my paper goods. And just now I transferred everything over into both of these. And then another thing I did was I sent a friend of mine a couple of zines that I've made in the past. I just keep a bunch of copies in this folder for when I want to share them with people. And I ran out of envelopes. So I tried making an envelope out of a piece of magazine, a page of a magazine, but I learned that for the size of envelope I needed, which was A2, magazine pages are not big enough. So I had to chop, there's all this space. So that's a failed experiment, but now I know. I have all these freaking to-dos, which I'm not even going to probably accomplish half of these. But I'm just keeping it open so that I can track the priorities, because I put them in priority order. What I thought we could do today is I would like to talk through how I use this planner, and then I will talk with you about the record that I'm going to put on after this to get started on all of those, that mountain of to-dos. So this is a Kokuyo Jibun Techo, and I've been using this planner for a very long time. Here are all my other ones. So I started it in 2001 with the Biz Lite. I actually love this size, and I'm going to go back to it, but it was too small for me at one point, and I switched to the big one. But now I'm tweaking my planner lifelogging approach for next year, and I'm going to go back to the Biz Lite. But then after that, I just used the A5 size, mostly for planning, and then it sort of inched into lifelogging, and I ran out of space, so now I'm going to split the two. But I'll talk more about that later. I basically love this planner system and design and layout, mostly for the vertical time layout. So I'll show you what that looks like in a second. But there's also all of these different pages that are laid out in interesting ways that I've used over time in different ways to log different things in life. So I'm just gonna talk you through how I use it. So I just have a bunch of scrap pages in here. This is an illustration, a little doodle of me working really late one night this week that my partner drew while sitting across from me. It's pretty accurate to how I was feeling. Okay, let's start from the very first spread that I use. This one I never really knew what to do with. This is showing 1 month. Each column is a month, and there are 2 little lines, little rectangles for every day of the month. And last year, I finally had an idea, and I decided to use this to track my coffee consumption. So I love coffee, and I drink coffee all kinds of different ways. I don't have really one favorite, or maybe I do. I have to think about it. But basically, this is me color coding the different brew types that I drink every day. And so my main types of brews that I consume are French press, some kind of espresso drink, drip coffee, cold brew, mocha pot, or I think those are it. So what I really like about doing this is that you can see over time different patterns in my year. So for example, all of this lavender here is cold brew and it's during July and August. So I'm someone who switches the temperature of my coffee depending on the season. So you can kind of see that happening, like when it was particularly hot. Drip, I tend to have either when I'm out somewhere, like let's say I go to a diner and I order a coffee, that'll be represented here. This represents a trip I took where drip was the primary option. I'm actually not sure what happened during this week in July to make me drink only espresso, but the orange is mocha pot, and I usually make those, as I mentioned, as a weekend ritual, so you can sort of see the weekends in here. So that's what I use this spread for, and I might just continue doing it until I have some other idea. Here is where I collect things from the food and drink that I consume. Fruit stickers here, these little bread tags on this page, and then tea tags here. I used to stick those into this daily planner on the respective day where I collected them, but I thought I saw a couple of things online of people collecting them all in one spot, and I really liked the end result, so I started consolidating in here. This spread is my habit tracker. I basically have the same habits that I track every month, but I started color coding the type of habit semi-recently. So what this is I have lavender up here for like physical habits, body habits. Yellow is more for the mind and my mental health. And then I have two kind of wild card habits down here. One of them is about professional development, and the other one is tracking my headaches because I get a lot of headaches. And actually starting to color code the type of habit actually made me see if I was not taking too much care of my body one pair of days or like over a month, or if I was not tending to my mind enough. So I actually really like separating them in this way. Okay, the next one is this monthly view. And what I do with this one is I use it as a gratitude practice. So I used to write down on this view each day something that I was grateful for, but over time I just switched to writing out a highlight of the day. So something good that happened. And what I really like to do is go through each month when the month ends to just remember all of the stuff I did that month that was good. And it's really nice. All of that science about what a gratitude practice does to your mood, I have felt that myself. All right, let us go to the main type of layout in this planner, which is this weekly layout. So I use this planner primarily now as a life log. Sometimes I'll put appointments in ahead of time, but if they change, I cross it out, and then I kind of run out of space to do the life logging. So I've decided to use this particularly and specifically as a life log, and I'll just walk you through the types of things that I write in here. These gray bars, as you can imagine, are my sleep schedule. And these long lines that I write down each day are my work hours. I don't have a timesheet where I have to clock in and out, but I just like logging that. I had a couple of late nights this week because I'm working on some big project on a deadline. And then what I do at the end of the week is I add up all of the hours to see how many hours I worked. I like to look at different data about my life in conjunction with other stuff so that I can see patterns and basically always be improving. Things that I highlight in brown are appointments or like delivery windows in the case of groceries. And then things in purple are more fun social engagements. These dots are not always present. I'm actually on some medication right now, and these are to make sure that I track that I've taken it each day. Is that it? Basically, up here, I will write out, I will like underline the weather. I put question marks when I forgot to do that. Usually I'll go back into historical weather for my city, but I just couldn't bother with that today. So I put the question marks. And then down here, I track my mood. And down in this area, I track what I eat. I'm on a weird special diet right now, so it's particularly important for me to write this stuff down. And that's kind of it. There's usually 3 books that come in this system. There's one called Life, which I have removed because I just don't use it. And then this idea book is just a grid, a notebook, and I use it to like sketch out different notes when I'm on the go, or if this is the only paper that I have. So that's it. A little short and sweet today. Now I'm going to show you the record that I'm going to put on. This one is one of my favorites, but I might always say that. Let's be honest. So this is a record called The Children of the Night by a band called Tribulation. Now, Tribulation is one of my very favorite bands. I discovered them about 10 years ago. And what happened was I had plans to go to a small metal festival show with a good friend of mine. And we were going specifically for a band called Skeleton Witch, great band. Usually my habit has been in the past to show up to a show right when I think the band that I want to see is going to go on. But my friend suggested for that day, do you want to meet up to get there at 7? And that was exactly when doors opened. And I was like, sure. So we went super early and we ended up catching every single band. And this was one of the bands, one of the first ones. And I ended up loving their set and their show and their sound so much that I became like a diehard fan. And by now I have seen them, I think 5 times. One of those times was in Finland at a metal festival. And then most recently, I saw them within the past couple of months at a very small venue local to me. And I felt so lucky to see them in that small setting again, because they have gotten quite big since this very first time I saw them about 10 years ago. So if you don't know who Tribulation is, they're a metal band from Sweden. They have been through a few subgenres. I guess most typically they've been referred to as death metal, but by now, I don't know if that subgenre is exactly perfect for what they give to the world and what they put out. I once heard them referred to as horror metal, and that actually feels perfect to me, and that's how I refer to this band. So part of my personality and sensibilities has always felt very goth, but aesthetically kind of less so. Goth implies to me a bit more of a romantic aesthetic and style than I identify with. I'm more sort of androgynous or genderless metalhead in how I present myself. And this horror goth sound of Tribulation kind of blends both to me, like the goth sensibility, but the way that their whole sound comes together for me sort of feels closer to the visuals in movies like The Crow or The Lost Boys, if that makes sense. This album in particular opens with a very slow and creepy organ sound, and it reminds me and makes me think almost of a silent movie taking place in a graveyard. Like you can sort of feel the damp cold and the unease of what's about to happen. I read a Decibel magazine review of this album, and it had this line that said, "They reside in the shadows between clasps of coffins, the rustling of leaves on a cold autumn night." It's really exactly that feeling when the record starts. But then the record really catapults you into this very danceable, catchy melodic chord progressions universe. And there's a bit of garagey production with the album, and there's a bit of a punky vibe as well. So I really love the way they bring all of these elements together, like the death metal vocals, the catchy and melodic chord progressions, tons of minor key, which is my favorite, and it's very danceable. If you can't imagine metal ever being danceable, you should listen to this album. And for the death metal vocals, I also read, I think in that same article, the way that the lead singer, Johannes, croaks through his words makes it feel as if we're privy to ritualistic practices from places forgotten. So it's very, very evocative, this album. The sound, the lyrics, the subject matter, and of course, the art on the album itself. So I'm going to show you a little bit about what's in here. It's a gatefold, and the inside has a really beautifully shot band photo. And then over here, we have the track listing on the different sides of the records. So I really loved what they did with typography here and this kind of icon imagery. And I love the way that this photo was edited to kind of fade into the whole background. In each little jacket pocket sleeve, we have a record, and this is pressed on black vinyl. So here we have a really nice, very positive and negative space, almost Day of the Dead looking illustration. And we have the same one on here. I love it when labels clearly label what side it is, because there's nothing that drives me more crazy to have absolute no indication of what side you're looking at, and then I have to like turn it into the light to see the like matrix run out to get a hint. So very big props for that. And then the other one is very similar. Here we have the same design, and this record is actually only 3 sides. And what I love is what they did on the 4th side, which is they put together an etching. And I don't have a lot of records that are etched. Hopefully you can see that etching. It's a design that mirrors this design here. So I was holding it upside down, so it's like this. You don't play this side, but I just love that it's here. You know, if you can't use all 4 sides, like why not do something really fun with it, like an etching. Here's the back. I love this like bat wing skeleton imagery and the Gothic arch. It's so beautifully goth metal horror. You have the skulls here. It almost looks like there's going to be a ritual practice here, like it's an altar. And then on the inside, you have this really nice booklet insert with these very simple sketches that almost look like chalk drawings. And then inside you have basically your liner notes and your lyrics of each of the pages, and some individual portraits interspersed. Super spooky, super dark, super goth, super metal. So in terms of the songs, I can't really pick a favorite. This is one of those albums that is put together so well, in my view, that the whole thing, you should just listen to it front to back, and it's this whole experience, walking or dancing through this damp, dark graveyard. My favorite tracks on here are the first 2, Strange Gateways Beckon and Melancholia. The Strange Gateways Beckon track opens with that slow organ, like I said, and then explodes into a very danceable but also very melodic with a few different tempo changes and some interludes and instrumentals in between. But these 2 songs like perfectly kick off the album to me. So basically this is Tribulation's 3rd album. And this is when I came online to them, was at that first show. I loved it instantly, but I read that it was a pretty polarizing departure for their fans because their first album, I haven't heard the second one, is pretty solidly death metal. It's called The Horror, and this is very different. It's like more all of the things I said, melodic, dancey hooks. So I've been following their arc ever since then in the past 10 years, and their latest album is yet another departure. They've maintained the minor hooks since then, but the feel is a little bit different. The frontman sings on the newer album. He has the death metal growls as well, but he sings, and he sings really well. This is one of those bands that I love being along for the ride as they evolve. So, as I mentioned, I've seen them a bunch of times. I have a ticket for one of those times that I saw them at the Knitting Factory in Brooklyn, and it was at that show where I actually got a drumstick. When the band concluded their set and left the stage, the drummer threw some drumsticks out, and my friend picked it up and just gave it to me. I love how you can see how chewed up it is over here and like is splitting. Like, so this gives you an idea of like the kind of shows that they put on. Super energetic. And I just keep this by my turntable as a little reminder of what an amazing experience it is to see live music, especially from bands that I love. So there you have it, folks. I am going to go ahead and put these on and get on with the day. Let's go do that. See you at the turntable. This one I'm seeing some dust and cat hair on, so let's run the little anti-static brush a couple of times. Okay, we're ready. Thanks for watching all. See you next time.